What does financial independence mean to you?
That I can do essentially what I want to do when I want to do it. It was why 52% of people in business survive despite their best efforts not to, and the rest fail. What do you think? It doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, I say about driving on the road.
What's your book's about, John?
Business blunders and bloody great ideas.
Welcome, I'm Tracy Irwin and I'm passionate about financial independence and wanted to share stories of inspiring entrepreneurs to prove it's possible for everyone to strive towards financial freedom. Today, I'm talking to John Attridge. John has spent 3 decades in the digital trade credit space. He has experience with household brands like Coca-Cola, MLC and Microsoft, but feels most at home in the SME business sector. He has built and sold 2 8-figure businesses. He has recently been awarded a legend status, we all know he's a legend, for services in his industry. And currently, John is CEO and founder of BBX UK, which is recognised globally as the largest player in the sector with operations in 13 countries. And he's also somehow found time to be a best-selling author. So welcome, John. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure, and it's always good to be having this sort of conversation
about money. Not enough people talk about money. So on that note, what does financial independence mean to you?
Yeah, so I guess it means different things to different people, but independence to me means that I can do essentially what I want to do when I want to do it. And you don't need, a lot of people get tied up that I have to be, have 10 million, 100 million or whatnot in order to do that. But when you think the process through of living a life, as long as I have got to the point where, the house I'm living in, I don't owe any money to those really nasty people called banks. I can come and go when I please. I've got 2 passports, so I can live here in the UK or in Australia.
That is freedom in itself, isn't it?
As you can probably tell from my accent, I live in Bournemouth, but that's I also spend a fair bit of time overseas. And at the end of the day, you can eat 2 or 3 meals a day. You can have, I like a beer on a Friday, and as this is a Friday, I'll be having 3 or 4 beers later on today.
Awesome.
And it's always a religious action that I take every Friday where possible. But after that, what do you do with money? You get to the point where you simply can't spend more than a certain type of money without being grossly exaggerated in your lifestyle. You could buy 12 Lamborghinis, you could live in a 20 million pound house. But for me, as long as the house doesn't leak, I don't owe anybody any money. I can have my beers on a Friday. I can eat my 2-3 meals a day. I can go out. I can treat my kids to a cruise when I feel like it. We're going down to the Caribbean this year, 2 weeks down there. So, it's the small things in life that you got to enjoy, because a lot of people say, you only live once, but that's a lie. That's bordering on what Keir Starmer would say. He's into these lies and U-turns, but anyway, that's another story. So people say you only live once, but that's not true. You only die once. You should live every day.
Nice, like it. There's a definite yes, I get that. So for you, it's more about people and experiences, which I think is really important. I was talking to somebody yesterday about having big houses, and actually, if there's nobody in that house to share it with, it means absolutely nothing. It's not.
As I say, I live in my house. It's not a multi-million pound house, but I can walk to the beach in a couple of minutes. I can walk to work in a couple of minutes. I can be in the high street in a couple of minutes. And if I lock it up, it's a penthouse of part of a building, so I can lock it up and leave it, and no one's going to break in. And, well, touch wood, not the last 10 years anyway. So it's somewhere to put your head that's comfortable.
Yeah. So when you go, living between Spain and England, I feel like I'm forever going home. Do you have that same kind of feeling? It's like when you go home to Australia, like I'm going home to England, but then actually when I'm going home to Spain too. So do you have that same kind of feeling when you go to Australia?
Yeah, I guess home's home where you're putting your head down. But if I'm here in the UK, I'm home and I enjoy the things in the UK. If I'm in
Yeah.
Australia, I enjoy them as well. So it's only if England's are playing Australia in any kind of sport, as you know, I've got a little bit of sporting background, then it's always going to be Australia is the home team
So,
for me.
right, I watched England play Spain in the last World Cup, by the way, in a pub, and it was like, it's like people questioning, like, who are you actually supporting? I'm like, England, obviously Spain won. And the experience, by the way, being in the streets afterwards, when Spain won was phenomenal. Like as soon as I walked out that pub, I was like totally forgot that England had lost and just enjoyed the atmosphere of the
Mm.
fact that I was in Spain when Spain won. So, yeah, it is a strange one. I think when we get to sports and things, it's always going to be our original home, isn't it? That's like,
That's
yeah,
it.
that's home.
It's where
So
you're born. So
it is, yes. So I just mentioned in the blurb about you've had like connections with really big companies, but you actually feel more at home with SMEs. Why is that?
yeah, I think my experience with big companies on silly money, but all the backstabbing, the covering of your bum, the CCing on emails, uh, just the scramble to get ahead in that jungle is just not exciting for me.
Okay.
It's a lot of people. It really is a dog eat dog environment most of the time. And as I say, I've spent some time with some pretty big companies, as you mentioned before. Um, the other thing is within most big companies, not only is there scramble for some type of responsibility and bum covering, you don't have any decision making ability.
Okay.
So I always talk about in my book and other things, books about management style. If you're going to pay someone a salary, empower them because, you know, and another saying I have is pay someone 1 penny an hour extra and include thinking in their job description because, you know, and I use this. I got an example. I was on a cruise once with my wife, and we do a lot of cruises around the world, as you probably aware. I think we've done more than 500 days at sea over the years.
Wow.
And I had some issue with my cabin, and I poked my head out the door and saw the cabin boy, and I said, "Oh, look, I've got a issue." And as soon as I got to that, he went, "Stop! Don't tell me. You'll make it my problem." And uh, so there's an example of someone in a mid-level, in his case is probably a low-level position within the company that hasn't been out empowered to take action. And there's a very good friend of mine called John Scholl. He's a leading expert globally on customer service and empowering employees to give the customer some great service
Yes.
and we've all been in the situation where you're talking to someone, you're sitting at an airline desk and you say, I want the door to open left to right, and it's opening right to left at the moment. And they say, yeah, above my pay grade. And
Oh,
we've,
yeah, I've heard
we've,
that before.
we've all
Definitely.
come across those. And you think, why should it be above your pay grade? If it makes your customer journey more pleasant and more pleasurable, then why don't large corporations empower their people up to a certain point to make decisions that interact with customers? So that's the major difference I see with massive companies. And then when I see small companies, that they should be nimble, they should be agile, they should be able to make a decision because the power within the decision lies within the owner or in the medium-sized businesses, the management structure, who definitely should be empowered to make decisions.
Yeah. I stayed at the Radisson at Twickenham last year and I watched them interact with everybody around me and stuff. I'm a people watcher. I'm so curious. And my experience of them was everything anybody asked, they just said yes. Like nothing was too much trouble. And when I went to check out, I actually said to the lady, I said, I'm interested. I said, I've had a fantastic experience here. I said, because I can see everyone, every single one of you as a member of staff, from the people in the breakfast room to the people behind reception, absolutely everybody was empowered to just help people. And I said, how do Radisson do that? She said, we get sacked if we say no. I was like, pardon?
Yeah,
And she said, we are told, like, we have to say yes. That is our job to fulfill the customer service. And it's not, nobody is below that or above that. She said, it's everybody. And she said, when we get inducted, that's how powerful it is. And I said, I can see it. I just
yeah,
watched it. It was like, and I was like, why don't more hotel chains even have something similar? I think it's very strong to say you get sacked if you don't say yes, but it worked. Everyone in there was so nice of customer service, so nice. So I
yeah.
was like, interesting. Yeah.
So it's my dream that, because small business employs about 50% of the global population. Um, and so they're trying to compete against these big guys, and they can compete against them currently because the big guys are too Titanic-ish.
Yeah.
They turn the wheel, but it takes, a couple of days for the ship to start moving after the action is taken. Um, Whereas in a small business, you've got the advantage of being agile, you've got the advantage of being nimble, and you can make decisions that empower the customer, which is what you should be doing, a lot easier. So I started off with the business community, and that's one of the reasons I wrote my first best-selling book, which was Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. But the
Yep.
paraphrase for that, it was why 52% of people in business survive despite their best efforts not to, and the rest fail.
Okay.
I wrote a LinkedIn article this morning, and I was at a business design centre 2-day show last couple of days, and I walked past, and there was a company, and I think I can tell them the name. It's a bit of tongue in cheek. Was called Female Techrepreneur.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking, there you go. But so they had the name of the stand up, but there was nothing in the stand. They hadn't turned up. And
Really?
so I put a little cheeky post out, and I said I could have almost bet that it would take a woman to be able to man a stand remotely at a trade show and get results. And it was tongue in cheek, obviously. But
Yeah.
I wrote a little article on, what happened. That the show was a good show. It had good footfall, good place, great location at London Angel,
Okay.
easy to get to. There was a tube strike. So there was plenty of people saying, oh, there was a tube strike. But I talked to all the exhibitors there, and there was like 80 of them. And they all said, yeah, we saw there was a tube strike, so we set off yesterday. Or because there wasn't a tube strike yesterday. Or we got there at 7 o'clock this morning. Or, we took the bus that was on there. It was all these other plans because they knew there was going to be an issue, and then they just adjusted. Whereas the lazy people and
Yeah.
the people that survive despite their best efforts don't turn up uh, late, or
Yes.
they're not there at all and say, oh, there was a tube strike. And you think, you know, uh, so my job is to try and get their heads to the point where that they understand there's an issue using this example, and how do you surf around that? How do you prepare to, what's your strategy in order to make sure you still get there despite any adversity that hits you there? And that's getting back to, that's a silly example today, but I started my whole community 37 years ago when we had an Australia-wide pilot strike.
Okay.
So I had a car rental business at the time, and we relied on people jumping off a plane and giving superior service because we're more nimble than Budget, Avis, Thrifty, and Hertz. And people
Yep.
saw that and thought, yep, we'll go with you guys. So we made more money than you could poke a stick at the year before because we had World Expo in Brisbane. So
Right.
we had 6 months of 100% plus occupancy and the 2 months either side. So we made more money faster than you can spend it. And I truly mean that. I'm not being flippant. But then fast forward the year after, this strike went on for 5 months. So we
Wow.
went from hero to zero in the space of a week or two, because as soon as people had found their way to get back to where they came from, they didn't need to hire a car from me again. So we still had all our fixed overhead, our lease payments to Mazda, the staff wages, the rental space that we had. We had 3 depots at the time, and but no revenue. And so we started this business community, which was I scratch my back, you scratch yours, which was small businesses in the same boat.
Okay.
So, and then we thought, how can we change and do something different, because there was no Aussie dollars running around. And that's why we invented our own business currency back in the day, pre-digital, and then bought and sold to one another. And I was the centre hub that did the transactions like a bank should. So not only do we keep track of the transactions and send everyone a statement every month, we also promoted one another's business to each other on a buy-sell basis, a little bit like today, LinkedIn if it got married to PayPal.
Are you working harder than ever, but feeling like you're getting nowhere? You're not alone. Most business owners I speak to feel trapped in their own success, working 60 hours plus a week, missing family time, and honestly, they're not even sure why they feel so stuck. They just know something needs to change. If this sounds familiar, I've created a quick quiz to help you find out why you feel stuck in your business. It takes only 2 minutes and I give you clarity on exactly what's keeping you trapped and, more importantly, how to break free. The link's in the description, so why not take it now?
Right, okay.
So that that
It's really
that
interesting because I didn't actually know how you founded the business and the reason why. I know what it does and it's a brilliant community, but I've never actually heard that story before of like and it is about adaptability, isn't it? It's like knowing, like as business owners, we find a solution to every problem rather than just moaning about the problem and just not doing anything. And I think that's what makes a good business owner is the adaptability of finding a solution. Like, I have a friend that sometimes she'll moan at me and I'll say, do you want me to just listen or do you want the actual solution? Because sometimes they don't want to hear it.
and as I say, that's my favourite saying is, I'll pay you a penny an hour extra, include thinking in your job description if I'm talking to someone that I'm not getting traction with. So that should never happen in a owner operated business, because here in the UK nowadays there's about 5.5 million businesses, depending on who you talk to.
Okay.
But there's over 90% of them are one-man bands or one-person operations. So solopreneurs, whatever you want to call them these days. But so that means that the buck stops with the person looking back at you in the mirror. And if you can't empower yourself to make a decision in favour of your customer, then that's an issue that you have. I used to play a lot of sport, as you know, and Aussie rules football was one of them. And my favourite sign in the dressing room was, the man in white is always right, even when he's wrong. So no point talking to raving onto the umpire. And I laugh at see Premier League footballers today, and here they are moaning about the ref and getting around and crowding and think, maybe he's going to change his, or she's going to change her decision one day. And you think, I keep watching the games, but I never see it. And you think, man, the definition of impossible or ridiculous is continuing to do the same things over and over and over, and yet they expect the outcome to be different.
Yeah, that's so true.
So, take responsibility for your own actions. If you see an issue, do something to change it. Don't moan about it. And if you can't fix it, don't worry about it. Ignore it. That's the key as well. Otherwise, you get stressed out.
So for the fact that we have got so many solopreneurs, like it can be a really lonely place, especially if you're not sure what decisions to make. What advice could you give somebody to actually, if they're in that position, they're doing really well in their business, but they're kind of like stuck at making small decisions, big decisions. They're just not quite sure what's right, either for themselves or for the customer, and finding that balance as well. Like, what advice would you give them?
So I talk about this in my book again. I know I sound like a brazen
It's
promotion
fine.
for
We'll
the
talk
book,
about your books later, John.
but I adopt the 80-20 rule. So the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
So I focus 80% of my energy on the 20% of things that give me 80% of my outcome. And so if you read that book and understand it, that can help. But join a community. I run a business community. It's by world standards, it's not massive. There's about 9,000 businesses here in the UK, and there's about 480,000 in the other parts of my world.
Wow.
But they do a few things. Not only do they transact with one another, but we run events and seminars and webinars and teaching things and learn lunch and learns and all sorts of things where you get same sort of people in the room together and you share ideas in a 12 in an hour's online thing or an in-person meeting.
Yeah.
And you share each other's. It sounds like a little bit like an AA meeting, although I've never been to one. But you hold hands and you don't do the seance. You share. This is my issue, and you'd be surprised. I do a lot of speaking at international conventions that are industry specific.
Yeah.
And you get different people in the room from different companies, and yet most of the time, and they can be in different countries, it makes no difference. They have the same issues.
Yes.
And the light bulb comes on. I'm in Greece and I have that same issue with customers not turning up on time or booking an appointment and not showing. I was reading a thing about the NHS this morning where they've got some ridiculous number, and I'm thinking, I can't remember what it was, but I recall somewhere north of 30% of all appointments made, no one turns up.
That's ridiculous, considering how many people can't get appointments.
And you think you can't get appointments, you can't see the doctor. And so, there's a system that needs changing in some things. So I'd look to a solution. And my solution in that example would be, if that was my business and there was a lot of people not turning up, I'd charge a deposit for making a booking.
Yes.
Now, this is applicable, hospitality is a really, moany sector at the moment, and I really do empathise with them. They did have a genuine issue. But you book a table at a restaurant, you phone up and you make the booking, and there's no commitment, there's no deposit. John, I'll see you at 7:30. If I don't turn up, what do?
Yeah, they've lost money.
And they've probably turned away people from that table because they've got a booking for 7:30. I know I could go on for hours like this, but I do articles on this, and this is what I try and look for. And I did a video on it a year or so ago when I was sitting in going to a restaurant with my wife and 2 adult children, and we went to go into a restaurant, and they said, "Oh, have you made a booking?" And I said, "No." We've got one table over there, but it's only for 3. But it's got a booking coming up, and we've got another booking over there for 4. That's inside, and that's got a booking. I said, "What times are these bookings?" And they were like an hour and a half ahead of what I was doing. I said, "Oh, we're only here for lunch. Yes. Why don't you take a chair off the table for 4, put it next to the table for 3, so I can look out the window, and you can have me as a customer for an hour and a half, and I promise I'll leave." And they went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I almost had to run the business for them, and I'm the customer, and I think, so getting back to your question, a lot of people in business do survive despite their best efforts not to. And the reason is they don't think through the issue. They panic. So to stay calm, think through the issue. If I change this, can it change the outcome? Yes. If I do that, will it please the customer? Then do it. And despite my best efforts, if I can't think of a solution, then I just hold my hands up and say, "Sorry, I can't change it."
Your business is successful, so why do you feel so miserable? Here's the thing, success doesn't always automatically equal freedom. I see profitable business owners every day who can't take a holiday, who can't switch off, and they feel completely overwhelmed by their own achievements. Sound familiar? Well, I've created a simple quiz that pinpoints exactly why you feel stuck in your business. It will give you the clarity you need to move from being trapped to being free. Why don't you take the quiz now? The link's in the description below.
Yeah, definitely. When I ran the accountancy, I didn't actually realise how good my customer service was until I sold the business. And that switch between coming from my company into somebody else's and the feedback I got afterwards was like really hard to hear, because I expected somebody else to look after them as well as I did, and they didn't. But also in a little way, it was quite reassuring to think, actually, I really am good, really, really good at customer service. But most business owners kind of just do what they feel is right. And I think I was in that bracket. I just was doing everything that I thought was right. Like the whole mission statement of TI Accountancy was treating your business as if it was our own. So like
Yeah.
literally that's what we did. And I think that, yeah, and it was a bittersweet moment when I realized that actually not every accountancy was as good customer service as mine, but hey ho.
Well,
But yeah,
what do you think? It doesn't matter what you're doing. I say about driving on the road. People get frustrated and road rage and whatnot, but
yeah,
it's the only sport in the world where the A graders and the Z graders are all mixed up in the same event and you don't know who's who. So there must be, you jump on a plane, you think, I hope this plane, the pilot knows what he's doing to get me there safety. It's out of my control. And there must be the best pilot in the world. And, old Sully Sulberger, the guy that landed on the Hudson, you think he'd have to be up there as pretty decent.
you
He had
must
to
be.
make a snap decision after the bird strike and
Yeah.
all the engines stopped working. And he had a decision to make within, I think, 14 seconds. And if he didn't make that decision, everybody on that plane, including him, would have died.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
that's true.
you can imagine if there was another pilot in that seat that wasn't as good as him, and we would be reading a different result and we wouldn't be watching the movie Sully on the Hudson or whatever it
No,
was.
100%. Like I know that when you go to, say, the Netherlands from England, if you're getting an EasyJet flight, I know that quite often they're actually trainee pilots on those flights with somebody obviously who's training them alongside. They're not just on their own. But you could actually be in a plane with somebody who's landing a plane for the first time in their life. You just don't know it.
Well, you got to do it. You've got to do it once, don't you, to be the first time you
Exactly. It's
landed
got
it,
to be, they've got to do it once, haven't they? So yeah, it's really interesting. And I know that EasyJet have a really big training like facility. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like every time I got on a flight to the Netherlands with EasyJet, I'm thinking, wonder how many times this guy's actually landed a plane before, because you had no idea. I mean, you could have landed it thousands of times. It could be just a normal flight. You just never know.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the point of all this is that you're dealing with as a business owner, you're juggling a lot of plates,
yep.
and you're dealing with your accountant and you're dealing with your marketing people and whatever else. A lot of the time you're doing the stuff yourself, which is another thing I write about. Stop doing that.
Yes.
Focus on the things that you're great at and love doing, and then outsource the things that you're not so great. I see a lot of small businesses spending a day a week on accounting. I asked them, "Oh, you're an accountant?" No, no, no. Do you like doing that? No, I hate it.
Yes.
So, why do you do it? Why don't you outsource? Oh, it's going to cost money.
Is that the first thing you think that they should outsource, or do you think they should outsource something else first? What's the list of what they should outsource first?
I have a broader brush. You
Okay.
should outsource everything. I mean, 100% of activity that you don't like
Okay.
and that you're not good at.
Okay.
Now, the barrier says, "Oh, but I've got to pay for that." Now, I've got a solution for that because you've already got the revenue sitting in spare capacity in your business, but that's another conversation. But even if you weren't part of my community, just think of the math on this. You're a great dentist. So if you focus on and stop, and you're getting, I don't know what dentists get nowadays. They must get 1,000 quid a day, whatever it is. So instead of taking Friday off to do your accounts because you can't afford to pay for an accountant, do an extra day's dentist. Dentistry, you're good at it. You make another 1,000 quid. You pay the bookkeeper 200 quid. You're 800 in front.
Yeah.
So adopt that mentality. Keep doing the things that you're great at and love doing, and you'll end up having more money by outsourcing than you will by trying to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I say that same to my clients as well. I'll say like, when you outsource, say, to a VA or a bookkeeper, the main thing they've got to remember, because quite often it isn't to give you back time to go fishing or golfing or whatever. It is you've got to take that time to be generating income. Like you can't just outsource things and think, oh, I've got more time now. I'm going to walk the dog. It's kind of got to be aware that in process, you've got to make that money back.
Yeah.
Because or your cash flow is going to get hit, which is what they're scared of in the first place. But they sometimes don't see the link between actually having to generate the income with that extra time. But that's a win-win for everybody because the economy just gets better. So
So it's decision making by starting with the end in mind. Stephen R. Covey's Second
Good
Habit of
book.
Highly Effective People.
Yes.
And so in that case, you'd think, well, okay, hang on. In 2 days' time, if I do this and I go fishing, what will happen? Work your way backwards. Or in 2 days' time, if I spend more time in my business, what happens? Work out the math and come backwards. You'll arrive at the correct conclusion
100%.
rather than just burying your head in the sand and doing the work yourself when you should be pulling people's teeth out or whatever it happens to be.
Love it. So tell me, oh, I already know, but let's tell everybody what's your book's about, John?
So I'll do an unashamed plug. This was the
Yes,
first one, the
please.
bestseller. So Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. And
Who does that
again,
help?
it's helped small business owners who keep making stupid mistakes.
We all do
Now,
that, don't we?
how do I know about this? As I say, working with the business community the last 37 years, I've seen every possible mistake, blunder, stupid act known to man, woman, and beast. And it's some dumb things. And, I list in those that people will resonate when they read them. Oh, yep, okay, I've done that. Oh, I know a friend that does that. And even if you haven't done them yourself, you will recognise those blunders.
Yeah,
And they're the sort of things not only just in small business but larger business. They're the conversation starters in a pub where everybody's putting the world to right, and everybody's got an opinion. It's like having a bum. Everybody's got one,
Yep,
right?
that's very true.
So you sit there over a pint or over a wine, and there you go, pontificating about the world and putting it to right. But when you think about it, it's probably you that's involved in this scenario, and yet you either don't admit it or you haven't come to the conclusion that you're guilty as well as anybody, because none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
And so it talks about a lot of things that people do, particularly small to medium-sized business. And my definition of a small to medium-sized business, by the way, is someone employing up to about 50 people and with about up to 50 million a turnover.
Okay.
So some people call them medium-sized, but the definition, that's what I go about, is whatever. So I'm not talking about the massive companies because, again, you get back to what I was talking about before. Then trying to find a person within that organisation that can make a decision to change something is near on impossible.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I like dealing with the people that I can help by attending one of my seminars or whatever it happens to be. I can do a Q&A, give them the set of things and say, come back and talk to me in a month or 12 months and tell me that didn't work. And rarely do I ever get that. So.
Nice.
So the book talks about, how to put to right a lot of the things and how to grow, scale, and exit your business for more if that's what you're about. I can't help, and this might sound harsh, and I have a term for people in this thing, and please forgive me, but I call them starving seagull business owners.
Okay.
And they're out there, squawk, 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 help me, help me, help me, lend me your brain for half an hour. You can tell the sort of people that want to come and talk to you, and all they want is me, 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 me. And when you turn around and ask them, they're work-life balance businesses. They're hobbies.
Right, okay.
There are always want to work from home type people. I know I'm stereotyping some people here, but the vast majority in those three groups do not want to grow. They don't want to scale. They don't want to exit. They've got no exit plan in mind. They just want to keep working until something happens.
Yeah.
And I can't help them. So this book's more towards the people that want to start a business. They want to grow it. Two, they don't have to grow it to 100 million exit or whatnot, but they have to grow it with a plan in mind to exit it at some point.
Yes.
And so they're the sorts of people that I want to try and help if I can, using the experience I've had from the last 37 years of dealing with people from all walks of life, from business owners, from dentists and doctors and professionals to tradespeople and marketeers, restaurant owners, hoteliers, mechanics. It runs across the whole board of spectrum of the different types. They've all got a few things in common.
Right, okay. So how do people get in touch with BBX?
It's all on the website, which is all the w's.bbxuk.com, which is our UK branch. If they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. My LinkedIn promo says get an 85% reduction on costs in running your business. Not that that attracts many people, because nobody's interested in getting an 85% discount. They think it's too good to be true. So LinkedIn is also a good tool that I use.
Yeah, go check out John and see what the actual BBX offers. It is a really good community. So, but thank you so much for joining me, John. I've really enjoyed our chat. I could speak to you all day. So I've all the details will be in the chat in the description. If you want to get a call with John. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me.
Been my pleasure, and have a good day.
Thank you. Right, I'm just going to
Thank you for watching to the end. I really appreciate it, and it shows that you are serious about moving your business forward. I want to share something with you. When I was little, I watched my mum skip meals so my brother and I could eat because she didn't have enough money to feed us all. That pain changed everything. I promised myself I would never need to rely on anyone else financially. I worked relentlessly towards financial independence. Even as a young parent of 19, I still worked. And once I achieved financial independence, I became passionate that everyone deserves the same. But here's what I've discovered. Successful business owners can feel financially trapped, just in a different way. And that's why I created the Money Metrics Academy to help you understand your essential business numbers in under an hour a week. No jargon, no overwhelm, just the clarity you need for true financial independence. Why not join the free entry-level membership and see how the community can help you? Let's get unstuck together.